We're making fried apple hand pies. First, we make a homemade apple pie filling using Granny Smith and Cortland apples, but you can use any variety apple that you prefer. Peel, core, and chop apples into small pieces. Place into a Dutch oven or a deep pan. Add the butter, lemon juice, brown sugar, and granulated sugar. Thicken with a cornstarch slurry and then add cinnamon after it's removed from the heat. Use pie crust or biscuit dough. We make pie crust ahead of time and refrigerate overnight so it's super chilled. Roll out the pie crust into little ovals, leaving the exterior edges slightly thicker. This will help you with crimping them and sealing the hand pies. Scoop cooled pie filling or chilled pie filling into the center of each oval. Fold over edges and trim with a pizza cutter or a small pastry wheel, and then crimp the edges using a floured fork. Save time by prepping everything ahead of time. Make a big batch of apple pie filling and refrigerate it in a large bowl overnight. Make pie crust ahead of time and refrigerate that overnight in large zip-style bags. I generally make 2 large zip-style bags of pie crust. This way I can work with one bag while the other one stays in the fridge, and then change them out if my pie crust becomes too warm. You want your pie crust as cold as possible. That way it's a lot easier to work with and your pie crust will stay flaky. Pinch off small rounds of pie crust, roll out into the ovals, leaving the exterior edges slightly thicker. Add the cooled or chilled pie filling into the centers. Fold over, trim the edges with a pizza wheel or a small pastry cutter, and then crimp with a floured fork. This will help seal the pies. Place your hand pies on a half sheet pan that's lined with parchment paper, slightly overlapping. We do 3 rows and 5 pies in each row. Once you make enough hand pies for 1 half sheet pan, wrap the entire sheet pan with plastic wrap, give it a good wrap, and throw it in the freezer for later. Hand pies will last in the freezer for several months. When you take them out of the freezer, discard the plastic wrap as it'll cause too much condensation and pies will become soggy. Pop them apart right away and place them on a room temperature sheet pan to thaw. I'm getting ready to make some apple hand pies. These have been previously frozen. They thawed for about an hour and a half or so, and they are ready to go in the fry oil. Okay, we have canola oil that's in this 13 1/4 inch cast iron skillet, and we're going to put in some apple hand pies. These have been previously frozen, but they're thawed. I'm putting 2 at a time. And they don't really float, so I'm gently going to push them back and forth so the bottoms don't burn in this oil. And you can monitor your temperature when you're using a digital thermometer with a probe.
And what temperature are we keeping these at?
About 375 degrees. And then if we need to turn the heat up a little bit, we can. Because you're putting in, they're still cold. So we're going to put in cold pies, but they're thawed. Your pie crust just needs to get nice and flaky and cooked and browned. The pie filling is already cooked, so we're not really concerned about that except for getting it warm. And these will fry on one side for probably about 1 to 2 minutes each side. I will gently flip them and fry the other side. So I'm going to use a slotted spoon, and then this is like for frying. And then I'm going to flip them over gently. And I'm going to drain what I can out of these pies. The crust is nice and golden, and the pie filling is now warm. If you put these in and they're not cold enough, your pie crust will be soggy and it will not be nice and flaky. So drain out what we can. And I'm putting them on a half sheet pan that's lined with parchment paper to catch some of the oil. And then we're going to drizzle. You can either do granulated sugar sprinkled over top of them while they're hot because it'll stick to it. Or we are going to put like a simple glaze, which is powdered sugar, a splash of vanilla, and whole milk. And you just whisk it until it's nice and smooth and use the consistency that you prefer. So that's what I'm going to put over these. And we're just going to drizzle some icing. It really completes the pie nice. And we'll let those dry, and then I'll package them up to go where they're going.